Hi, this is dumediat. Hope you're enjoying the holiday season. In this video, I'm going to be bringing you a puzzle called Pit Trap by BremSter. Now, before I get into the solve of this puzzle, which I'm really looking forward to, BremSter did reach out to me and wanted me to mention a couple things at the top of the video. The first is that he apologizes for the number of BremSter videos that you're seeing, BremSter puzzle videos that you're seeing. It's not something that's typical for the channel where you're seeing so many of his puzzles featured. From where I'm sitting, I'm okay with seeing BremSter puzzles, but he does want to make it clear that this is not the future direction of the channel to show a lot of his own puzzles. Typically, those are published under the BremSter Unpub playlist. But he does, as always, want to feature other setters' videos and making sure that you're seeing a lot of other puzzles and to feature those on the channel. But the reason you're seeing this puzzle on your screen today is because this was featured in the December 25th edition of James Sinclair's Artisanal Sudoku newsletter. Now, if you're not familiar with James Sinclair's newsletter, I highly recommend looking that up. It's a weekly newsletter that comes out every Monday into your inbox. And there's a free version where you can get 3 puzzles every week if you want to try it out and see if it's something that you'd be into. Or there's a subscription version, which you get 5 puzzles per month, plus you get some hints to each of the puzzles. And then you also get access to the full archive of the newsletter, which there's been over 100 issues of the newsletter. And recently, James has opened the newsletter up to outside setters for submissions, where he'll consider adding one of the other setters' puzzles in if it's something that would replace something that he would normally include. It's something that I have subscribed to for quite a while now, and it's really appeals to, I think, solvers of all levels. I would consider a relatively experienced solver. I can usually solve a lot of 4-star, 5-star puzzles on Logic Masters Germany. But I do appreciate kind of these more approachable puzzles as well because they're very clean and elegant. They have some really nice logic. And there's a good range of difficulty as well. There's some really beginner level puzzles, and there's even some kind of pushing up to intermediate level. If you're familiar with Logic Masters Germany difficulty ratings, the puzzles tend to be between 1 and 2 stars, maybe pushing into 3 sometimes, but it tries to keep it more on the approachable side. So it's great for new solvers, people who are sort of got their feet under them under beginner puzzles, but want to challenge themselves a little bit more, learn some new ideas. So definitely encourage you checking that out. I'm sure BremSter will include a link below the video to the newsletter to go check out Artisanal Sudoku. Now, with all that out of the way, I do want to get into the puzzle as well. In this puzzle, we have normal Sudoku rules. So in every row, every column, and every 3x3 box, we have the digits 1 to 9, once each with no repeats. We also have killer cages. So these cages in the grid will have a number in the top left corner, and that number tells you the sum of the digits that are placed within the cage. So this 12 cage, for example, we could have 3, 4, and 5 in this cage. 3 plus 4 plus 5 is 12. You could also have something like 1, 2, 9 in the cage. The only rule other than making sure you sum to this number is that you cannot repeat digits within cages. And the final rule we have is arrow Sudoku. So the digit that we place in the arrow circle, for example, if we would replace a 6 here, that means that this digits that are placed on the arrow line have to equal the sum of these digits have to equal the digit we place in this circle. So in this case, we would have 1 plus 2 plus 3 equals 6, and that would be a valid way to fill the arrow. Most arrow puzzles, you're allowed to repeat digits on the arrow. In this case, they're all within a box, so we won't be able to do that. I'm going to go ahead and restart my timer so that we can go ahead and get into the puzzle now. Now, the first thing I see and I notice is that all of these arrows have lines that are contained within a 3x3 box, so they can't have repeat digits, and they're all 3-cell arrows. So the minimum we can put on a 3-cell arrow where you can't repeat digits is 1 plus 2 plus 3 equals 6. So the minimum we can have in these 4 cells is 6. And that means that the maximum then this is going to be is a 6, 7, 8, 9 quadruple. So we'll have 1 each of these arrows, 6, 7, 8, and 9 in these 3x3 boxes on the corners of the grid. And so we're going to have low digits here in the center. I won't pencil mark that right now because I don't want to clutter the grid up too much when you're solving a puzzle like this. Another thing I immediately try to look for in this type of puzzle are cages where we can do something with either forcing digits or where we can maybe restrict where we know at least 1 or 2 digits will go in the cage. And in this case, the 3-cell 7 cage, the only way to get to a sum of 7 in 3 cells without repeating digits is with 1, 2, and 4. And that's going to be nice for this arrow here. So I've seen this logic a couple times, which is it's always really nice to see, but because it's a really elegant idea, is now that we have a 1, a 2, and a 4 placed approximately in this cage, the next 2 lowest digits we can include is 3 and 5. And 3 plus 5 is 8. We know that this cell, this arrow can't sum to more than 9 because it's a 1 cell, a 1 digit total. So 3 plus 5 is already 8, so this has to be a 1 to get to make it so this arrow doesn't break, and so we get 1 plus 3 plus 5 is 9 in this arrow circle right off the bat. So that's a very nice way to start the puzzle. Now the remainder of the digits in this case, this box is going to be 6, 7, 8, 9. I won't mark that quite yet, but we can, I think, turn our attention over here now, because now, well, one trick to know about any sort of arrow where it's 3 cells, where the maximum sum is 8, you always need a 1 on the arrow, because if you don't include a 1, the minimum you can put on here is 2 plus 3 plus 4, which would equal 9, and we can't do that. So we know that all of these arrows now contain a 1. And this 1 looks over and up and rolls 1 out of those cells. Now the interesting part here is this 1 is outside of this 9 cage. And I just said on this arrow here that the minimum we can put in 3 cells without using a 1 is 2 plus 3 plus 4 to get to 9. So now we immediately know this is a 2, 3, 4, 9 cage. Now before we get to this arrow, one other thing I'll point out here is this triple here we have in row 8, where we have a 2, 3, 4 triple. Now the 3 has to be in one of these 2 cells in this row, not this cell. So that means that this can't be a 3. If this was a 3, this would be a 2, 4 pair, but we'd also have another 2, 4. So we'd have too many cells needing only 2 and 4 in them. So one of these 3 cells would be empty. So that means we can take 3 out of this cell. Okay, so now we've got 1, 2, 3, and 4 placed. We'll get to that in a minute, because that might have some implications here for this 9 cage. But let's go back to what we were doing here. So now the minimum we can put in these 2 cells, we have our 2, 3, and our 4 taken up. So the minimum is a 1 and a 5, which sums to 6. And this is a maximum of 8. So if this is a minimum of 6 or in the cells, this is a minimum of 2 that's already at 8. So we have to minimize these 3 cells and maximize this. If we were to put a 3 here, this already sums to 9, and that breaks this arrow. So this has to be a 2. This is a 1, 5 pair. The 2, well, first this equals 8. 1 plus 2 plus 5. Now this 2 makes this a 4, this a 3. This 4 looks over, making this 2 and this 4. Off to a good start here. All right, so now we can probably, we can take 8 out of these. And so now we have a 6 and a 7 here. So one of these arrows sums to 6 and one sums to 7. So that means that we need to have a 2 on these arrows as well now. If we don't include a 2, the minimum we can get to is 1 plus 3 plus 4, which is 8. And so that doesn't work. So both of these arrows need to have a 2 on it. Now this 1 and 2 look up here, so the 2 can't be in this cell. So now these 2 cells, we need a 1 and a 2 on this arrow, but neither can go in this cell. So then this has to be a 1, 2 pair. And to get to 6, we would have 1 plus 2 plus 3, and to 7 we would have a 4 here. So this is a 3 or a 4. This 2 looks up, so this is not 2. Okay, so then now this 10 cage is interesting because it doesn't have a 2 in it. The 2 is on the arrow outside of the cage. And so if we don't have a 2 in here, we can ask the question, do we need a 1? And the answer is yes, because if we don't use 1 or 2, the minimum we get to is 3 plus 4 plus 5, which equals 12. So we do need a 1 in this 10 cage, but we also need a 1 on the arrow. And the only way to satisfy both is if we have the arrow, the 1 inside the cage and on the arrow. And the only cell that makes that happen is row 2, column 2 here. So this is the 1. And then this is going to be a 2, oops, with either a 3 or a 4. It's either going to be 1, 2, 3 or 1, 2, 4, just like over here. Now this 10 cage doesn't have a 2 in it, and we need these two cells to sum to 9. So it's either it can't be 1 plus 8 or 2 plus 7. So it's either 3, 6 or 4, 5. This 3 looks up, so this is not 3 and this is not 6. And then this 4, so this is not 4 and this is not 5. Okay. So we do have something interesting here I'll point out. I don't think we can use it right now, but it is a handy trick to know about, and it's called a virtual pair. So if we think about this 10 cage, we know it's either 1, 3, 6 or 1, 4, 5. So it uses either a 3 or a 4. But we also know that this arrow here also uses a 3 or a 4. So it's either 1, 2, 3 or 1, 2, 4. So whatever 3, 4 is not used in the 10 cage is used on this arrow. So what that means is none of the other cells in the box can contain a 3 or a 4. So we have kind of what we call a virtual 3, 4 pair between these two cells in the arrow and these two cells in the cage. So if we wanted to pencil mark these, I'm not going to leave these in, but these would be from 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And you can prove that to yourself. If we were to put, let's say, a 4 here, that means we can't have 4 in these cells on the arrow, so it becomes a 1, 2, 3 arrow. But we also can't have 4 in the 10 cage, so this would become a 1, 3, 6, 10 cage, and we have 2 3s now in the box. So again, not useful now, but I did want to point that out as something that, in case you're not familiar with that concept, that's what that can be helpful in some cases. It might be helpful later in this puzzle. We'll have to see. Okay, now this 12 cage is interesting because 1 and 2 are not inside the 12 cage. And we already said before in this example, the minimum we can put in 3 cells without repeating digits, without using 1 and 2, is 3, 4, 5. And so this has to be a 3, 4, 5 cage. This 4 looks up, so this is not the 4. Okay, so we're getting a lot of low digits here. We do have a lot of high digits around this perimeter here. Might be something we can use. Something else I'm noticing interesting in column 5 now, because we have 6, 7, 8, 9 in here. So the rest of the digits in this box are from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll call these low digits 5 and lower. Now we also need at least 1 digit from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the 9 cage. Because if we don't use those, the minimum is 6 plus 7 is 13. And we also need at least 1 of these digits in the 8 cage. So this is either 1, 7, 2, 6, or 3, 5. If it's 3, 5, it uses 2 of the digits from 1 through 5. So if we were to do that, put a 3, 5 here, these would be, we take 3 and 5 out, this would be a 1, 2, 4 triple. And then how are we going to fill this 9 cage? We've already used the digits 1 through 5. So again, this would be a 6, 7 minimum, and that's way more than, that's 13, that's way more than 9. So this 8 cage can't be 3, 5. It's either 1, 7 or 2, 6. And so the 1 looks over, that's not a 1, so this isn't a 7. Now a similar thing can be said about this 9 cage. This can't be 4, 5. If it was 4, 5, again, we're taking 4 and 5 out of here. And now again, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 used up. And so this would again be 6, 7. So that doesn't work. So this is either 1, 8, 2, 7, or 3, 6, just because we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 already taken up. Now this can't be 2, 7. This is a trick you can use when you see 8 2-cell 8 cage and a 2-cell 9 cage where all the digits see one another. This can never be 2-7 because if it is, if this was 2-7, well, let's just put that in. This can't contain a 2 anymore, and it can't contain a 7 anymore. So this would have to be a 1-6 cage, which doesn't sum to 8, and it's only 7. So in other words, it would take both candidates, both candidate pairs, the 1-7 and the 2-6 out of the 8 cage, and this would be left with no value. So this is a 1-3 and a 6-8 here. So we have a 1-3-5 triple in row 9. We've got something else cool going on with these 2s and 4s. The 2 in box 8 can't be in these cells by Sudoku, so it's in one of these cells. But the 4 is locked into the same 2 cells because it can't be here either, and it's not in the 9 cage. So this is actually a 2-4 pair. So now we've got all of our low digits taken up in row 9, which is kind of cool. Now I wonder if there's something we can do here to resolve this, because we've got all of these boxes resolved except for this one. So if this is a 4, sorry about that, and my alarm going off. If this is a 4, it becomes 4, 5. So this becomes a 6 arrow. This would be 1, 2, 3 with a 6 here. That would be a 7. Oh, that's cool. So this is a tough step, tougher than what we've been doing for sure. It requires some visualization. I wouldn't quite call that case checking, but it is something where you're kind of, what BremSter's done is he's sort of resolved these for us just by kind of the logic we've been using before, just using like the minimum here, and then the minimum here, and then the minimum here. But this one had some optionality left. We've got a lot of these similar digits kind of locked into these cells here. So I'm gonna write this out just to help with visualization in case you're not used to doing this type of thing. But it all circles around kind of these 4 cells here and what happens to these arrows. And the sensitive digits here, I mentioned before, the virtual 3-4 pair. So it all centers around that. So if we were to use the 4, if this 10 cage has the 4, that means the arrow cell has the 3. So let's write that out. And I'll use the small digits here to show that we're kind of, these aren't for sure digits. So this being 1, 4 means this is a 5. But the important thing is that the 4 is not here. So this becomes a 1, 2, 3, and that becomes a 6. 1 plus 2 plus 3 is 6, and so this becomes a 7. And so this has to be 1 plus 2 plus 4. But look at what we have here. We have 2 4s in row 2 here. That won't work, obviously. So we can say for certain that this cell is not a 4. This has to be the 6. So this has to be a 1, 3, 6 10 gauge, which takes 3 out of there. This becomes a 1, 2, 4 arrow. So this is the 7, and this is the 6. And so this has to sum to 6. So 1 plus 2 is 3. We need another 3 here. So that's 3, that's 5, and that's 4. This 4 looks over making this 2 and 4. This 2 looks over making this 1 and 2. And then this 5 looks down, we got 3 and 5. This 5 looks over making this 1 and 5. And now this 1 looks over making this 3 and the 6. And the 6 looks up making this a 1, 7, 8 cage. Yeah, this is just flowing beautifully now. So this 1 looks down, we got no 1 in these cells, so the 1 in box 5 has to be in one of those 2. We can do a little bit of Sudoku, I'm sure. We got a whole bunch of low digits. I'm sure they're all looking at one another. So let's do some of that, shall we? We've got 1s looking into this box, and these 1s are pointing over here. So 1 is in one of those 2. And a similar thing over here, we've got these ones plus these, so 1 is in one of these two. Now, can this be a 1? This would be 8 plus 1 is 9. We would need a 7 here. That seems to work. If we look at 2s and 3s, we got our 2s and 3s lined up here. So 2 in this box has to be in one of these 3, and the 3 is also in one of those 3. So they're both locked in the same area. Let's look across. So 2s are in one of these 2 cells. That's kind of cool. So by Sudoku, 2 has to be in box 2 has to be in one of these 2 cells because these 2s are ruling out the 2s coming across here. But in box 8, we also have 2 locked into these 2 cells. So where are we putting 2 in column 5? 2 can't be in these cells or these cells, so 2 has to be in one of these 3. So that means 2 is not in one of those cells. Okay, nice little Sudoku trick there. 3s, looking into box 2, so we got a 3 in one of those cells. Now we got the 4s looking into box 2, and they line up right here with the same cells as the 2, so we can delete the pencil marks, the corner marks, and use center marks to make these a 2-4 pair. This row now needs an 8 and a 9 still, so we can put an 8 and 9 pair in one of these 2. Now I'll pause on Sudoku here for a minute and look at this cage, because we know this sums to 17. We've already got the 7 spoken for, so these have to add to 10. So this is either 2, 8, which it can't be, or it's 4, 6, which it has to be. So that's the 4, that's the 6. That makes this a 2, which makes this a 4 and a 2. Okay, now our 4s help us with Sudoku here, so neither of these are 4. And we got 4 pencil marked in the center here. Okay, we did 1, 2, 3, and 4. 5 we don't know so much about in the top band. So we can start looking down here. We got 1s already. The 2s are in one of these 3. We got the 3s looking over, so one of these is a 3, and then the 4s are also looking over here. Okay. Here's another thing. So we did up here where we had the 2s and the 4s lined up in the same 2 cells, so we could delete the corner marks and make them center marks, meaning that those 2 cells could only be 2 and 4. We have a similar thing here with 1, 3, and 4. So these 3 cells are these are the only places in the box that 1, 3, and 4 can go. So this has to be a 1, 3, 4 triple. The other way of seeing that is looking at boxes 3 and 9. We have 1, 3, 4s lined up in column 7 and 8. So where are 1, 3, and 4 going in column 9? They can't go here and they can't go here. So they all have to be in these 3 cells. And we know the 1 is pointing over here, so that's not a 1. So we got a 1, 3, 4 triple. Now that probably has something to say about this, and it does. That's very, very cool. All right, so we have a 16 cage. We have 6 in it already, so these 2 cells have to sum to 10. We can't use 1, 9, 3, 7, or 4, 6, so this has to be 2, 8. And the only place the 2 can go is here. So that's 2 and 8. I like that step a lot. So that rules 2 out of this and this. Okay, so we got our 2's place, our 3's, 4's, and then 5. We can pencil mark 5 in one of these 2 cells here. Okay, now looking across the bottom, we've got 1, 1, so these 2 cells are 1. Oops. The 2's are done, the 3's are done, and the 4's are done. The 5's are in one of these 2 cells. Now, can we do something with this 17 cage? We've already got a 9, so these 2 cells sum to 8. Can't be 2, 6, 3, 5. So this has to be 1, 7. And the 1 can only go here, so that's 1, 7. That displaces our 5, so the 5 can only go here in box 8. That gives us an 8, 9 pair in these 2 cells, but this 8 disambiguates which way they go. This 3 looks up, taking 3 out of these cells. And so this is a 2, 4, 5 triple. So these can't contain a 5. This is a 1, 3 pair. That 1, 3 pair looks over, making this a 4. And that takes 4 out of this cell. So now we've got everything in this column except a 9. So this needs to be a 9. In this box, we need 3, 5, and 8. So this is 5 or 8. The 8 is in one of these 2 cells. So this is 3 or 5 using this 8 by Sudoku. But I think we might have an easier time. Well, we could look at this. Yeah, these 2 cells sum to 8. They can't be 2, 6, or 3, 5 because the 2 and the 3 are over here. You could also see that by looking at these. So this has to be 1, 7 in this order because of this 1 looking down. Okay, now we can probably look at these rows now. This needs an 8 and a 9 in it. And this row needs a 6 and a 7 in it. We've got an 8, 9 pair and a 1, 3 pair. So we need another 6 or a 7 here because we've got 1 in one of these, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8, and 9 used up. So this has to be 6 or 7. And this 6 tells us which one. So that's 7, and that's 6, and that's 7. Now in this box we need 6, 8, and 9 still, but this 6 tells us that the 6 goes here. This is an 8 or a 9. And this box needs 7, 8, and 9, which we don't know yet, but the 7 is down here. That can't be a 7 because of this cell. Up here we need 6, 8, and 9. And with the 6 being up here, because this can't be a 6. This row here needs a 5 and an 8. Now we have an 8, 9 pair in this column already, so this can't be an 8. So this needs to be our 5 and our 8, which makes this a 3, 5 pair, which is resolved by this 5. That's 3, that's 5. This 3 looks down, making this 1 and 3. Okay, this box needs 7, 8, and 9. This 7 looks up here, so this has to be our 7. And this is an 8 or 9. I always secretly hope when I see these that there's some cool coloring trick on 8s and 9s at the end. Maybe we'll see that, maybe we won't. Okay, this column needs 5, 8, and 9. And that 5 can't be up here because of this 5, so the 5 is in one of those 2. And this can't be an 8. This column needs 4, 8, and 9. Oh, this 1 looks up, so this can't be a 1. So this needs 4, 8, and 9. And this can't be the 4 here. So the 4 in this column goes here, which gives us a 5 here, a 2 here, and a 4 here. This 2 looks over, rolling 2 out of here. So now by Sudoku, we've got 4 2s looking into this box. So you can always place the digit when you see that pattern. We have 4 digits looking in a box. Can't be here, 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 or here. So it needs to be right there. Okay, we got this 5, so this makes this a 9. Oh, we don't have to use coloring. The 9 looks like making that 8, that 9, that's 8, that's 9. 9 is not in those cells. And this 8 looks over, making this a 9, and that's an 8, and there's no 8. This 8 looks down, making this 7, 8. Okay, this row still needs 1 and 3. This 1 looks up, so this must be a 3, 1, 3. And this row still needs 5 and 6. This 5 looks down, making that 6, 5. The 6 makes that 9 and 6. This box needs a 7 and a 9. That 7 makes that 9 and 7. And then this box still needs, well, it needs a 5. These 5s look over, so 5 can only go here. And so we need a 6 and an 8. That 8 makes that 6 and that 8. And that's Pit Trap by BremSter. That's a really fun puzzle. A lot of cool ideas. I really like this kind of working around the grid. You find the minimums here, which then affects this arrow sum, which then affects that cage. Then we got this one next. This one was the trickiest one because you had to visualize what happens based on which 3 or 4 you put on the arrow versus in the cage. and then that affected through these arrows. So we ended up having a contradiction here with 2 4s in row 2. There were some nice tricks here with this 8 and the 9 cage as well, where you can kind of rule some options out based on how many low digits were left in column 5 there. And then the rest was really just kind of nice flowing Sudoku. There was some triples that we found, some pairs that we found that we were able to rule those digits out, and then kind of finish things off with the low digits being taken up outside of these cages, and then that kind of told us around, again, going around the grid in a beautiful way, what goes in those candidates. So excellent puzzle, BremSter. Thank you very much for sending this to me and asking me to solve it. I really enjoyed it. Please do go check out James Sinclair's Artisanal Sudoku. This puzzle will be in it. So if you want to solve it yourself, see what other puzzles are like this is kind of what you can expect from that newsletter. Maybe some on the easier side, maybe some on the slightly more difficult side, but definitely worth your while. Thanks everyone for watching. I hope you have a great day and take care of yourselves. Bye for now.